Hi, welcome to the Leadership During Crisis Online Summit series. Thank you for taking your time to watch these episodes. Please remember to subscribe at our YouTube channel, follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook under Leadership During Crisis. In your case, what was the crisis that you had to deal with and overcome?
Okay. The crisis that I wanted to share today was triggered because of the sudden death of my father. This was back in 2012, so quite a number of years ago. So I was working in the corporate sector, and just one fine day, my dad was in Malaysia, so he just suddenly had a heart attack, and he had no history. So I was totally shocked, and immediately I rushed back to Malaysia, and he was already in hospital. And after that, I arranged for him to come to Singapore. But sad to say, he passed away very suddenly, like 2 weeks later. And there was a lot of shock and also guilt on my part. So I think a part of the thing that I felt very difficult to deal with was the guilt of should I have done this, should I have done that, should I have done more to prevent this tragedy. And it was a crisis because it was so sudden, and I went into a stage where I didn't know how to cope with it. It's a period of time where things are very intense, very difficult for me, and I essentially don't know what to do.
So now, in the end, how do you actually get yourself up and face the crisis?
I think the first thing was I needed the time. The time was important for me to get to a stage where I was trying to grappling what this whole thing means to me. So there was a period of grieving that I felt was necessary. So for me to come to terms with it. So that was the initial stage. And after that, it was still not easy, but gradually what I did was that I started to do a lot of what you call journaling. I started to write about what was going on in my own thoughts, my own feelings, and trying to process those things that's going on. Right here in my head and in my body, in my heart, what was going on. So that was one thing I started doing, and the journaling. And then subsequently, I started to try out meditation because it was something new to me. I didn't really know what to do, but I heard that it was useful to just slow down and just not think so much about what was going on, what happened in the past, what's going to happen in the future, but just focus on what is happening right now and just breathe. So that was the second thing that helped me through that crisis a lot. And then, of course, gradually from then on, the third thing that I think helped me was focus on trying to shift my mindset and my thinking to not dwell so much in the past or what has happened, and really started to look forward on how I can get on with my life and move on from there. So that was, I think, three things I would say that helped me.
I think you also brought up the point about guilt. I think a lot of us, because of our work style, the stress, and when something happens to our loved one, for sure we will feel all the guilt. How did you get through this guilt feeling during the process of grieving?
It's a journey. So for me personally, the sort of the negative thoughts that circle in the head, all this self-talk about what I could have done differently, what I should have done, why didn't I do this? Those are negative self-talk that's keeping me stuck in this guilt, this phase. So after a while, I realized that it's not going to be helpful for me, because there is nothing I can do to bring him back. There's nothing I can do to rectify the situation, and I need to move to that phase of acceptance, to accept that things have happened and I have done my best and to what I could do at that point in time. And also, I think the important thing is, after a period of maybe blaming yourself, you've got to get out of it. And the way to do that is to start to practice self-compassion, some self-kindness. So start to see that it's not my fault all the time. I may have some part to play in it, but it's time to also forgive yourself and be compassionate and be kind to yourself as well.
Right. And I understand that currently you are actually also into the field of training and speaking and coaching. Have you utilized any lessons that you have learned through these crises that you went through to apply in the corporate or organizational setting?
So definitely. I think that incident was actually the genesis of my journey into the power of what I see as our mindset, how we talk to ourselves, how we think about what has happened to us, and what are the triggers that cause us to become ineffective and stay ineffective. My program, which I call Mindset Mastery for Self-Leadership, these are the three things that I share. So the first aspect of it is how do we identify our mindsets? And in order to identify, we need a way to measure it. So how do we measure our mindset? So I use a very unique tool that we use to measure the mindset. And the second step would then be, based on the mindset, what are the biases that hinder us? And also what are the assets that can help us move forward? And the third step in this workshop or process will be to help you sustain those behaviors using the assets to help you shift away from the biases so that you can sustain those new way of thinking.
Right. Now, for this, right, in terms of shifting mindsets, it can be a little bit challenging when you're trying to do this program online. So, how does one do this online?
It's a good question. And I would say my answer to this is that it can be as effective online because the work that people would do is first, of course, understand what are the biases that you have. And the report will help you uncover those. The next step is then how you need to then reflect on what are the things that trigger you that is linked to those biases. That is the process of self-reflection, and that self-reflection process can happen during the virtual session as well, or it can happen after the virtual session. And then when we get back again, that's when the sharing can happen and the processing can happen on how those biases hinder the person's effectiveness or triggers that person. And similarly for the asset as well. So it can definitely work virtually on as well, because I have personally coached people virtually a lot and using this as the base, the self-awareness, and then how to shift that mindset. So it's self-reflection process, and then through the conversation and questioning, people then start to see how they can shift that mindset.